A very warm welcome to Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series. Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series by eminent persons from varied fields of agriculture and development to motivate and inspire the professionals. Manage is conducting these programs. And Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series will invite outstanding personalities to manage to share their knowledge essence through live lecture to the faculty members, trainees, students, invitees from the leading institutions, and to all the stakeholders of agriculture development. And Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series will be recorded as video films to share through Manage, YouTube, and social media channels so as to reach to all the stakeholders of Manage and to the last mile extension functionaries. Today, on the 31st of August 2021, we are happy to welcome you to the 6th Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series. The session is on blending agriculture and rural development, my life experiences. We are very privileged to invite Dr. W.R. Reddy Garu, IAS, retired IAS, as Director General of NIRD and PR. Very warm welcome, sir. And
thank you.
Manage Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series was started under the guidance of our Director General, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara. So now I request our Director General, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara, to kindly introduce our today's chief guest, Dr. W.R. Reddy Garu. Sir, over to you.
Namaskar to everyone. Most respected today's esteemed speaker, Dr. W.R. Reddy Garu. On behalf of Manage family, I would like to extend a warm welcome to this program. All my Manage team is attending this program, and Samiti and EI representatives are also there. Apart from our students and many other participants, as a direct audience, but the very purpose of this program is to take it forward to the doorstep of every extension worker in this country. So this talk will be converted into a edited film, and that will reach more than 1 lakh extension functionaries and organizations across the world, and that will also go to Manage YouTube channel and to our website. That is the purpose of this Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Series lecture. Sir, actually our extension workers are working in nook and corner of the country, and on day-to-day basis they struggle and try to address all the challenges along with the farmers, and it is very important to inspire them from time to time and link them to greater vision and rich experience, and that happens only when they get opportunity to listen to outstanding professionals like you. Only from the point of connecting last mile extension worker to the outstanding professionals. So this Manage Knowledge Krishi Gyandeep Knowledge Lecture Series program is chalked out, and very successfully it is going on. So for today's program, we are privileged to have you, sir, just to give a brief introduction of sir for the benefit of Manage family and all the viewers. Dr. W.R. Reddy, basically he hails from a farming family and from a village. Naturally, he from Andhra Pradesh. Naturally, he developed enormous interest in rural life and agriculture. He pursued his interest, and he got into the BSc Agriculture program in Agriculture College, Tirupati. After completing, he pursued his masters in genetics in one of the premier institution in the country, Indian Agriculture Research Institute at Delhi. Later, he completed his doctorate also in the same subject. And another feather in his cap is, again, he got into one of the premier service, public service in this country, Indian Administrative Service during 1986. So he belongs to Kerala cadre. He worked in different areas in agriculture and rural development, which are his very passionate subjects in Kerala also. Agriculture is concerned. He worked for Watershed Development Department, CADA Development Department, and worked for also strengthening Milk Producers Union of Kerala, and also worked in Rural Development Department. You all know that Kerala is a land of people's planning and decentralization of powers. First, it very effectively took place in Kerala, and Sir plays a very important role in different capacities. Then he worked for a short period in Andhra Pradesh again in different departments and moved on to the center. There he worked for DOPT as well as Agriculture Ministry as director, especially in agriculture marketing. And that is the time lot of reforms took place in agriculture marketing, especially introduction of this terminal market. So, and like that. So later, as a joint secretary, plant production, he upgraded one of the monumental work done by Sir is he upgraded National Plant Production Training Institute, which is our sister concern, which is a very little distance from here. A premier institution work for plant health management aspects in this country, upgraded from National Plant Protection Institute to NIPHM, and Sir played a very important role in that. And later he went back to Kerala and finally completed his service as Director General, National Institute of Rural Development. National Institute of Rural Development under his leadership gave enormous support to ministry in terms of pilot testing innovations, and also for the first time implementation of majority of the Government of India programs through NIRD. So NIRD made very significant contribution, and as a professional who is very close to the farmer's life and rural life, he is in front of us. And I request Sir to share your experiences for the benefit of all of us and every extension worker in this country. Sir, thank you for accepting our invitation and sparing your valuable time again on behalf of Managed Family. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Jaya and Dr. Chandrasekhara, the DC Manage. Is my pleasure to get pulled back to the sector, because for the last 1 year, 2 months, I had been taking rest or brooding with my own things. So it is a great occasion to brush up my things, and then little bit read here and there, and browse, and then formulate the ideas. What should I speak for today's Manage Krishi Gyandeep knowledge series. I would like to thank the DC Manage for giving me this opportunity. And of course, this next maybe 35-40 minutes I would like to spend, and then thereafter we can seek clarifications or ask questions, which I'll try to respond. Though the topic is blending agriculture and rural development, my lifetime experiences, instead of listing the experiences in my whole last 35-year service, I thought I'll place the broad picture of rural development issues before the participants, and then the agriculture sector, and then how can we make it much better for the ultimate objective, ultimate purpose. So I'll be raising a lot of issues. I'll be flagging a lot of issues for you to ponder over. I may not be giving all the answers for these issues. So I would like to give or put some of the thoughts into your minds, so that you can go back and start the thinking. And there is no single straight answer for these issues. There could be multiple or much better, efficient ways of finding solution to some of the problems. This is the broad structure which I'll be touching. As I said, rural development issues covering the major dimensions, then agriculture landscape, what are the right approaches, some design thinking, some out-of-box thinking ideas, and then I'll converge to what could be the best approach of merging, enmeshing, or harnessing the sector potential, agriculture potential for overall rural development and bringing smiles on the faces of large number of masses who live in the rural areas. That's what I call participatory approach, panchayat as a local government. How can we leverage that? Just a few statistics may not be updated in terms of, if we talk about rural development, the first thing comes to our mind is the people below poverty line. And second strong belief for me is anything which is not quantifiable, anything which is not measurable, cannot be monitored. So obviously rural development means the number of people below poverty, and then how do we bring them, what are the different approaches, and so on and so forth. The last formal study was by Rangarajan. The figure is about 363 million people below poverty line at the rate of $1 per capita per day. But the latest studies indicate that comparison pre-COVID and COVID, there's a lot of change. Though from 2014, 2011 onwards, substantial progress has been made till 2019. But unfortunately, because of COVID, many large number of households have moved back to below poverty. So the figure is pre-COVID, suppose it's 2019, if you take about 265 million, which obviously has come down from 363 million, which has been assessed by Rangarajan. Post-COVID, it has, I think, gone up to almost about 400 million people below poverty line, and all depends on what criteria we adopt. Suppose World Bank has done a study in 2017, has come up with a figure of almost 700 and odd million people below poverty line by taking $3.2 per day per capita as minimum income, as a level, cutoff level. So it depends on, but for us, the conclusion is post-COVID, the large number of people, almost 400 million people below poverty and struggling, and the COVID has added many serious woes to their lives, which we have to keep in our mind while we are working in our field, while we are dealing with the farmers or other people. And of course, the class-wise, the community-wise, the ST are the most affected, and of course, the agricultural labor. And there is a high level of inequity depending on the social classes, geography, location of this family. Suppose you take Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, the high incidence of poverty for various reasons. I am not getting into those reasons. A quick grasp, what is the number, what are we dealing with in rural areas when you talk about the development, whose development? So 67% of the total households are living in rural area. That is our target category. Out of them, some may not get eligible, majority of them get eligible. And if you drill down to the source of income wise, dependence wise, how many people are living or how many households, the latest PLFS survey, PLFS means Periodic Labor Force Survey, done by the Ministry of Statistics and the Program Implementation, with the figure of about 53% of these households who are living in rural areas are dependent, are termed as self-employed. Out of them, majority are dependent on agriculture. So the disaggregate figure is about 38% on agriculture and about 15% on non-agriculture, out of this 53.2%. And regular wage salary earning about 12-13%. Casual labor, again, major number, about 25%. of which directly dependent on agriculture is about 12%. So that makes about 37, 38 plus 12%, almost 50% are directly connected to the agriculture sector based on the PLFS survey that has been brought out recently. So that is the magnitude of dependency on this sector. So question of looking agriculture and rural development separately doesn't exist. And I think rural development means agriculture development. That's what I want to emphasize here. And another simple, some interesting statistics, because while we are planning at a higher level or looking for some policy prescriptions, we have to see who are all the focused targeted group. There's a term called labor force participation rate. Labor force participation rate, suppose we said 67% of the households are in rural areas, but all of them may not be looking for work. Those people who are looking for work and who are working, that is called labor force participation, working and unemployed. That comes to about 56%. But the interesting factor here is the female labor force participation rate is abysmally low. That is just about 24-25%, which is very, very concern and disturbing factor. And of late, this number had been coming down. So the women labor force participation is coming down in rural areas for various reasons. I'm not getting into those reasons why it is coming down. Maybe some of them are well off, so they don't want to work, but some of them doesn't know how to get the work, so they're not willing to even look for the work. Out of this is both employed and unemployed, but out of them, only 53% are actually getting the work. If you see the next column, worker participation rate, WPR, if you say the actually working, it is about 53%, and the female again, it is about 24%. So there is a huge category of people who are available in the rural landscape, but not looking for work. Out of them who are looking for work, only half of them are getting work and rest of them are left out. So that is the magnitude of seriousness of the whole problem, or the targeted group on which we have to aim if we want to make a difference in the whole poverty scenario in the country. And we keep telling that India is a youthful country, and the youth bulge and population dividend, all of you must have heard about this terminology. So if you quickly see the LFPR, labor force participation rate among the youngsters, if you see 15 years and above, it is about 55%. A group, large chunk of the people are outside. Where are these people? The balance number, the missing number, where are they? If you see the red data indicated in the last but one column, and of course last column, if you see neither pursuing education nor in labor force. They are neither doing let's say education, higher education, who are above 21, they would be seeking higher education, but they are not seeking higher education, but they are not available for labor force participation. So that comes to all about 27%. Dear friends, you're all working in the field. If you go to a village, you will definitely see a lot of youth who are floating around, and a lot of youth who are sitting here and there, maybe under a tree or maybe in the house of a friend, chit-chatting, and maybe nowadays with the smartphone and WhatsApp and looking at YouTube and so on and so forth. But they are not coming to work. They are not looking forward for work for various reasons, maybe no work of their aspiration. So this number, 27%, is a large number which should worry us, especially worry the policymakers and program implementers, which need to be looked at. Just one moment on how do we look at development, what exactly the development means. Of course, it can be defined in multiple ways. One definition is, of course, development signifies the progress in multiple dimensions of life of a person. A multi-dimensional. It is not only the income, it is education, health, and various other happiness, wellness, and so on and so forth. That is a broader approach to the development. In fact, in all our programs over the last maybe 7 decades of our experience in the sector, in various sectors, not only in agriculture, not only rural development, in other sectors also, if we say development, we think of only a scheme. If you say that we need to develop, we need to make development in this particular area, so you conceive a scheme and then come up with a scheme. In the process, the schemes are getting predominance, forgetting, leaving the actual, the target. Development is primarily about the people. Development of whom? It is not the scheme and then spending the money and then money flowing to it will have some impact on that, but our thinking should be on the people with whom I referred, whatever 300 or 400 million people who are below poverty line, who are the most needed people. Otherwise, we are going to miss the grain in the chaff. If we say that development is the scheme, but we are missing the grain in the chaff. So we have to make our attitude and approach of our thinking all the time that whenever we talk about a scheme, ultimately that person should be in our mind. That person whom we are going to help, who are going to assist, or we are going to facilitate for his multidimensional development. I think that should be one element which I would like to emphasize. And of course, every individual is different, has a different social context, history, and aspirations. Aspirations are very, very important nowadays. Without addressing the aspirational issue, we are not going to succeed fully in number of our interventions. So we have to create the institutions accordingly. And it is not the question of average growth which we are making. Generally, we talk about at higher levels, we talk about average growth, GDP growth of 6%, 7%. But how much of that growth is available or benefited or filtered to this most needy 400 million people? That is the issue. In fact, progress cannot be judged based on how much the poorest of the poor has gained, but not by the averages which usually used in our normal parlance. So, based on this introductory remarks, I would like to enlist some of the issues, the most pressing issues. They are not; these are not exhaustive. These are the issues which I thought the most important issues which anybody should be looking at. Of course, one is gender gap. The latest World Economic Forum survey that has been brought out, in which we are 140th country out of 156. Just to have a comparison, Bangladesh is at 65th level, which has made tremendous progress maybe in the last 15-20 years. So that is the gap, which is a major concern to us. And if you want to build this gap, yes, we want to build the gap, and there had been efforts in different forms. But with the present effort, the present pace of attempting to bridge this gap, if we proceed, it will take more than 2 centuries to build that gap. Are we ready for that? Should we take that much long time, or should we look for some out-of-box, direct, target-oriented approaches to make bridge this gap? In fact, one of the major elements is the political empowerment of the women. And obviously, we know what is the percentage in both the legislatures and, of course, the parliament. So it requires completely an out-of-box approach to bridge that gap. Fortunately, which I don't think World Economic Forum has taken the data, at panchayat level, the women reservation at panchayat level is almost, I think, women representation is almost 45-46% across the country. Some states have adopted 50%, some states have adopted 40% reservation, and so on and so forth. And it has enabled the opportunities for the rural women to participate in the governance and administration, whatever may be the level and quality of that participation. But there is an opportunity which has been created. Then the children, they are the future citizenry. Suppose if you do not take care of the children now, we will be creating a suboptimal generation in terms of underweight, in terms of stunting, in terms of wasting of the children because of malnutrition. The number is very, very high. The recent National Health Family Survey indicates that though we have made some progress, but we have gone down in our indicators compared to the last survey. And in terms of women health issues and in terms of anemia, the major issues, and all these factors are creating a suboptimal next generation. If a child is stunted, if proper care is not taken in the first 1,000 days of the child, 1,000 days means 9 months when she is in the womb of the mother, and followed by another 2 years, 3 months after her birth, that 1,000 days is called the golden period. And whatever cognitive development happens, majority of the cognitive development happens in that 1,000 days. Suppose if you miss that golden period, then you are creating a suboptimal child, and suboptimal child is not going to harness his full potential, is always a second grade student in the studies, and a second grade employee, or the opportunities he cannot exploit. So that is a major issue. And as I said, nutritional deficiency and educational skills are the major issue, and especially the educational skills in terms of the poorest of the poor, who usually go to the government institutions, and government institutions are not equipped fully to meet the requirement, and that is the major issue. And of course, inclusiveness, lack of inclusiveness is a major aspect which is most pressing, which we should be looking at. The population dividend, or it is a nightmare. What is going to happen that 50% of the youth bulge, whether we are going to harness their potential, we are going to enable, create that ecosystem for their full expression of their potential or not. I think that is going to decide our country's progress. Already we are late. We have started with a large number of schemes in terms of skilling and all, but that is not enough, and we have to speed up and accelerate the whole pace. And of course, the status of empowerment of the local governments. So that is the magnitude of the rural development scenario, a broad indication, and the important issues which I thought we should keep in our mind when we talk about the role of the agriculture sector, and how can we make the impact by making some changes in our approach. Quickly, in terms of the agriculture as a sector, the asset is land, of course, and as per the agriculture census, the operated area has come down from 2010 to 15 by 1.1%. We cannot escape from this, because there is a competitive requirements for the land. The land is limited, you cannot expand, and it is coming down. We have to bear with that. And operational holdings are on the rise by almost 6%. How are they rising? Because fragmentation, more and more holdings, more and more land parcels are getting divided between 2 brothers or 3 brothers or 4 family members, and so on and so forth. If you take some quick data from 2010 onwards till 2015, the average land holding has come down from 1.15 hectare to 1.08 hectare. So in the last 40 years, if you take, it has become half. The land holding has become half, and the number of holdings have gone up by threefold. We cannot say it is a good or bad, but land is an important and asset in demand. Everybody would like to have a small piece of land, so we cannot help it. So we have to find out other means of overcoming if it is a problem. So wherever it is a problem, we have to overcome. And the operational holdings in the poorest states are, of course, the large number, where the large number of poor people are living there. And there is, in terms of large picture, in terms of number and operational area, as you can see, small and marginal farmers, that is less than 2 hectares, has gone up in 5 years from 85% to 86%, an increase of 1% in 5 years in terms of the number of holdings. And of course, commensurately, the medium and large holdings have come down. So it is a major issue. The land is a major issue. On one side, the land is limited, you cannot expand. On the other side, the number of people dependent on that land parcels are huge number. We'll come back to that, how many people can really this land can bear with, the bearing capacity of this operational area, how many people it can provide effective, full-time, productive, and happy employment. We'll refer to that a bit later. And coming back to the broad issues in the sector, as I mentioned, it continues to be critical for the Indian economic growth. The resources are shrinking, both in terms of land and water. I mentioned about land, and water also is the same scenario. Input use efficiency is going down, and the factor of productivity is going down, decelerating factor of productivity. Unabated post-harvest losses, though there is some change of late, but still we are nowhere to have grip over that factor, which can save a huge amount of effort, energy, and in terms of wealth. And climate change, still I'm not sure whether we have on our drawing board a workable, effective strategy to tackle climate change and to move towards climate change adaptation. Though there had been efforts, CRIDA has done some wonderful work, but it is again a small speck here and there. But we have to focus on that area. Just some truths about the factor in a layman terms. If you say 70% of agriculture households cannot meet their consumption needs based on their income, and about 52% of the households are under debt. On average, 47,000 per household. This is one of the studies which NIRDPR conducted for NABARD. And households earning 10,000 rupees a month, rural households earning 10,000 rupees a month or less, 10,000 or less constitute about 77%. 77% are earning 10,000 or less. 93% are earning 20,000 or less. I think if we recall, the 7th Pay Commission has fixed 18,000 rupees as the minimum wage. The lowest paid employee should get about 18,000. And I think we have to, maybe, I don't know, we have to feel shame in telling that majority of the farmers are below that category. There are governmental norm, governmental this thing, and we keep talking about the $1 poverty line, and then $2 poverty line, and $3 poverty line. So we are far below than the required position. That's what I would like to say. Dear friends, coming to a higher level thinking, the whole approach depends on what is our objective, priority, where we would like to say the sector is aiming at. Of course, recently the government has changed the name of the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. There's one good step of changing the attitude of the implementing machinery, that the farmers' welfare is also important. Agriculture development means farmers' welfare. That is one very good thing, and to what extent that gets translated into the down below field level, we have to see. So for a minute, let us say that what exactly from whose perspective, in fact, the agriculture sector aim, it depends on whose perspective it is. Is it from farmer perspective? Is it a consumer perspective? Is a policymaker implementing executive perspective, and so on and so forth. In fact, when I was in the Ministry of Agriculture, there's even now it happens, I think every week there's going to be one meeting chaired by the secretary, who discuss about the prices of the commodities, and they're worried the price is rising, price of onion is rising, price of potato is rising. Mostly those two crops used to be taken because that is where the electoral politics going to play. So that's where Ministry of Agriculture used to focus. How do we manage not to raise, not to allow the increase of the price of potato and onion? But suppose if our focus is the farmer, we should have been very happy that the prices are rising. The concern would have been how much of that rise is actually reaching the farmer's hand. That would have been our focus. But unfortunately, the whole focus was different for various, I think, reasons of electoral politics, and then the government's change because of onion, government change because of potato, and so on and so forth. That was very intriguing, and I couldn't realize why we are spending so much time on discussing instead of asking like whether how much of that raised price is reaching to the farmer. Instead of discussing that, we are worried. So if it is employment provision, or if it is providing, let us say, a farmer a livelihood, decent, respectable livelihood, then the whole approach, I think, would require a different look. If it is food security or nutritional security, the approach may be different. Are they mutually exclusive? Or if both are important, then which one gets precedence while taking decisions in some of the times? Like, let's say, many times I have seen while I was working in the ministry, many times the Ministry of Commerce brought in curbs in export of onion, brought in curbs in export of potato when there is a glut, or when there is a likely rise in the prices. They have blocked the ongoing export channels. Many times it happens, and the farmer doesn't have a role. So if the export gets blocked, the export markets get killed, and then next year later on, the export becomes difficult. So which one gets precedence? Whether the farmer should get that opportunity, should utilize that opportunity or not. So it all depends on how we view the thing. If it is a food security, I keep wondering, not that the higher level policymakers do not know, they know it, but it is very difficult to lay their hands, very difficult to put the spanner in those works. Food security means how much buffer we should have, what is the storage, what exactly the buffer quantities we should have, rice, wheat, and other coarse grains, pulses, oilseeds, and so on and so forth. Of course, except rice, wheat, coarse cereals, other things are very minuscule. If you see the FCI data, I pulled down FCI data, the April month, I have taken month of every year, 2016 onwards to 2021, we are hoarding 75 million tons of grains as on 2021 April, which is a huge quantity. If that is so, are we talking about the food security? What is the requirement for the food security? If it is only 30 million tons, then can we think of bringing those policy changes? And of course, we are not entering into that because it is difficult to bring that change. That's what exactly we are seeing with the agriculture market reforms and the farmers' agitation and so on and so forth. So by thinking that implementation of such a decision is impossible, so we keep quiet. So who is at loss? The country as a whole is at loss. So I think we have to call spade as spade and say that we need to maintain only this much and use that wealth which otherwise gets wasted for improving the farmers' lot. That's how I think an effort has been started in Punjab for diversification of the crop. But I don't think that effort was wholehearted and wholesome. It has not picked up, it has failed. I think we have to go back and see why it has failed, and maybe we have to tweak our approaches. It is not going to change by simply giving, let us say, a subsidy of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 per acre. But there's many other issues which need to be understood, which need to be addressed. then the farmers can get convinced. No farmer is going to say no for any good measure which is in his interest, which is in his benefit. And his benefit for the time being is only an additional rupee, an additional 100 rupees, additional 1000 rupees where he can get. That is what his survival. So unless we understand that psychology and approach the problem and then find solutions, we are not going to make the difference. Otherwise, we continue to talk about food security and then dilly-dallying, then farmer suicides, and then crisis in agriculture sector, and so on and so forth. The approach, again, it is not exhaustive. Based on my experience, I want to flag some of these things. I think in agriculture sector, the existing agriculture machinery has become sclerotic. Bear with me for using this word, agriculture extension machinery. I'll be spending some time on that separately. Another slide is there. The advisory system, which is supposed to be, which we had, the agriculture extension worker, rural development block, and then agriculture worker was working with as a part of the whole rural development under the block system, panchayat block system, which was very, very efficient, and they were available to the farmer. But now I think they're mostly spending their time, we cannot blame them, in the distribution of whatever the small inputs, in distribution of whatever the small freebies, and collecting the data, and so on and so forth. And I think the developmental advisory and mentoring service, the extension service, has to be completely reoriented towards developmental advisory and mentoring service. It doesn't get limited to only agriculture. It covers the whole family, farm family. Suppose a person is interested in, let us say, a fishery development unit, I think this advisory machinery, not necessary that only agriculture department should do, a group of people should join and then take care of that family, full family needs, so that the whole family will move. It is not only one source of income, multiple sources of income have to be added to that, so that the family will move up, so that it will not fall back even with small, some incidents or some health hazard happens, the whole family comes down. So I think that approach is the way forward. And of course, multiple activities in sync with the youth aspiration. And we know that the agriculture sector is aging. Only aged people are getting stuck. And I think agriculture sector is also getting feminized. More of women are getting stuck in the sector, and many people want to leave. So how can we make the whole activity more interesting and more aspirational for the youth? It is not impossible. It is possible. We have to first believe that that is a problem. We have to believe that the approach is to solve that problem. Then so many ways will overcome. Now I know large number of people, IAS, IITs people have spent their lives two decades in working, and then now they're coming and then talking about let us say clean food and then organic food and so on and so forth. So there are avenues, but first of all we have to start accepting that fact. Agriculture is not a preferred occupation. Nobody would like to soil in the present way, soil their hands in the present way. Nobody would like to go and sweep the cow set. If suppose we talk about livestock, nobody is willing to go and sweep. So can we find out some solutions, automatic or mechanized or some dignified? Can you make this whole job a blue collar job? Instead of talking toiling, can we think of some blue collar? I don't have solutions for all problems, but if we accept that this is the way, then I think solutions will come onto the table, and then you select the right solution and then move on forward. And entrepreneurship, I think there is large scope for promoting entrepreneurship in the agriculture and allied sectors, agriculture, food processing, and so on and so forth. I think that enabling environment has to be created. Project the farming as a dignified activity, the adequate opportunities, club the bouquet of services so that that activity will become economically viable. not only raising, let us say, a bendy in 2 hectares of land, provide all support to that youth. So he will grow bendy, and then after 2-3 years, then he will be burning his hands and then going back. No, multiple activities so that his incomes are stabilized and made risk-free. And of course, a lot of skilling and the project approach is required, and of course, FPO. As I said, the farmers, the farm holdings are fragmented. Small size farmers are not becoming economical. Maybe, of course, a family driven farm, family managed farm, maybe doing some good, but on a large scale, many people are leaving because it is not economical. So FPO concept, group approach to overcome that problem is one important approach. 10,000 FPOs being created, but creation of those FPOs is not again target driven. Unfortunately, every time we end up in target driven, and then our records show that we have achieved that. In fact, FPO creation is a major social engineering, social re-engineering. Otherwise, in the village ecosystem, is very, very difficult to bring the people together, bring the people. In milk sector, it has happened because one single commodity, which is highly perishable. There is no other alternate market. That's why they have come together. Dairy cooperatives are working, and of course, the leadership is also one of the factors. Whereas here, multi-commodities, multi-cultured, size of the land holdings, it requires a lot of social re-engineering. Whether our extension machinery has that capability, wherewithal to do that social re-engineering. If not, I think it is for the managed to ponder over and then bring them onto the table to import those social engineering skills. Eco-friendly practices, strategies to work with various stakeholders, NGOs, various business models are there. Agri-entrepreneurship model, which has been attempted, which is successfully being done with the Syngenta Foundation. We associated in the NIRDPR. I don't know about the present situation, but they have created agri-entrepreneurship. I think that is working, but that had so much of intense hand-holding and monitoring by the Syngenta Foundation by investing. And I think manage should look at associating with these efforts, and then in fact, NIRD has done the impact of agri-entrepreneurship model of Syngenta Foundation must be available on the website. You can pull down and see how much it has impacted. A brief word about the agri extension. I'm not diminishing the contribution of the agri extension machinery, but still this little bit old data. But still, majority of the farmers are looking at input dealers and the neighboring farmers instead of looking at public sector extension workers. That's where comes this agri-entrepreneurship as a business model for that local youth. He'll be there in the village. He'll use his house as his office, and then provide all-round extension advisory for a group of farmers, let us say 100 farmers or 150 farmers, and is a revenue model. So I think we have to move towards that. I think our agriculture machinery should let off and enable, create that ecosystem for creation of that entrepreneurship to bridge that gap. There is a gap. The gap can be bridged by creating this entrepreneurship. And of course, I'll not spend. Sameti have come in some states. I hear a lot of good work has happened, but again, it has become too much bureaucratic. That quick decision making and all is not happening. So I think the whole approach is to move towards the farmer centric, rather than from production customer to farmer centric. And I think certain decisions which we take very often are not without proper data, proper base. Maybe, I don't know, oil palm introduction in Telangana, I suppose they're planning to introduce a huge extent. But I don't know whether after 8-9 years there will be large number of farmers who would have burnt their hands and then licking their wounds, as we have seen, let us say, in propagating what is that tree-borne oilseed crop, which has been promoted by the Rural Development Ministry, and similarly promoting extensive promotion of that ostrich rearing in Tamil Nadu and other states. After some time, they burned their fingers. Only few group of people who were the initial intelligent people who were in the seed business, who were in the seedling business, they made money, and then remaining farmers were left in lurch. Water use efficiency driven interventions. In fact, suppose if we take Telangana, or if we take for that matter any other state where the water is scarce, can we think of integrating both drip and sprinkler irrigation along with the surface irrigation, along with the lift irrigation as a mandatory thing? And I think that's where we have to look at land records, streamlining the whole land records. A lot of work has happened, but still it is not enough. Land record streamlining can really save the farmers from their waste of their time running after the offices, running behind the banks and all, save a lot of their time. But still it is a long way to go. I worry that whenever we say there is a problem in agriculture sector, we say, let us bring legislation. And I think the latest one is the contract farming legislation. Bringing legislation is not the solution. I wonder the existing legislations, to what extent they serve their purpose. In fact, under S.R. Sankaran chair, we had initiated a study, the impact of these legislative changes, legislative interventions, the ultimate impact vis-a-vis their objectives, how much they have achieved. Once legislation is passed, everybody clap and then say that, okay, we have done our work. But to what extent that is working? Take the example of contract farming. The dispute redressal, I think, is expected to be done at the sub-collector level. You think that the small farmer with 1 acre will be able to approach the sub-collector to protect his rights? I don't know. We are adding another additional bureaucratic layer, another additional bureaucratic burden, governance burden I call, legislative burden I call. I think there are a large number of contract farming initiatives are already happening. Like suppose you take sugarcane, is all large contract farming. And in some cases of vegetables, some cases of other fruits, it is there. I think we have to introspect whether these legislative load whether is benefiting us or not. Many times at highest level, now at policy level, based on my experience, we only look at immediate, quick solution for a problem. We don't bother at the highest level. We don't bother a long-term impact of that. We don't take the long-term impact into account. One example, in 2006, while I was Joint Secretary, Plant Protection, it has happened. 2005 onwards, we imported huge quantity of wheat. Maybe I think 5 to 6 million tons, which is very huge quantity. So for accommodating certain countries or for having better competition, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs were toying with the idea of diluting the quarantine specifications. And they have done one level of dilution. Then after that I joined, and then the pressure from one particular country, I'm not taking the name, particular country built up so much at the highest level, including the CAPSEC, that their wheat is not getting qualified for import to India because our quarantine specifications are, in their terminology, so restrictive. So their wheat is not eligible, or they cannot, their wheat traders cannot participate in the competitive bids being floated by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Then there was a hurry of meetings, and then pressure, and then And I was there in that position. I was facing the flag. And the secretary, the then secretary of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, used to say that because of you, we are losing 200 crores in the import of this lot. Means if suppose USA comes, sorry, if that other country comes into competition, then price will come down. So we'll save hundreds of crores. So you are going to be responsible for that. Then my question was, who is going to be responsible for long-term impact of, let us say, a disease or a weed which is getting introduced through this wheat into our country? We already have very sad experiences in terms of Parthenium, in terms of Phalaris minor, and so on and so forth, who have made havoc, who created havoc in the country, and we are still living with them. So despite the pressure, we withstood. Maybe perhaps because I was with agriculture background, I was having seriousness of the quarantine. I could withstand the pressure. I could convince my bosses, and of course, we made a visit. We found some solution of removing their issues, but still they could not participate because it was going to cost them to the specific example was they had certain weeds. And if that seeds of the wheat come along with the wheat getting imported, the weeds get established in India, which is not there in India, that is quarantined. So we said, you clean it up. Their system of cleaning of wheat is very, very excellent. Huge silos and then cleaning mills and so on and so forth. I said, you clean one more time so that this weed seeds will get removed. They said, no. If we do one more round of cleaning, our wheat will not be price competitive because small brokens and all will get out. So the quantity will come down and price will be, per unit price will go high. So they have to quote high. So they do not become competitive. I said, we have given the solution for your problem, but it is up to you. If you are not competitive, you are not competitive. So that's how we could silence the pressure groups working to open up, to liberalize the quarantine norms, which would have impacted our country based on our past experience. So at the highest level, that sensitivity of long-term thinking, I think is missed many times. May not be wantonly, but under pressure, under on that particular context, in that particular day, particular month, particular year, they have to solve that problem. Import, we have to import 6 million tons, so we'll import at lowest price. So that is one issue which I thought we should remember, and maybe sensitization at highest level is important. And another example is prestige versus economics. Again, in 2006, we were working with the US government to export our mangoes. Mango export was prohibited for, I think, 17 years prior to that. So we had been working, we spent day and night, and it is in a record time we satisfied their norms, quarantine norms, and set up irradiation unit, activated irradiation unit at, I think, No.6 of Atomic Energy Agency, and we got the manuals prepared. In fact, Manage has helped in preparation of those manuals. Mr. Reddy was there, so we prepared the manual for the pack house management, manual for atomic unit management, manual for the airport management, so on and so forth. That is the requirement of the US quarantine. But in retrospective, I was thinking, I was quickly pulling down some data from APEDA, whether because of that effort, whether our exports of mango have gone up substantially or not. The data is of together fresh fruits. Bifurcation of mango, fresh mangoes is not available, but I think mangoes will be 1/4 of the value. I don't think we have made such a huge jump vis-a-vis the amount of effort which we have made. So many times prestige. It was prestige. Indian mangoes should be available in the US. That was a prestige. That's why we were pressed, and then we went ahead, and then we made it possible. And I think we had to even accept their one of the motorbike. I think I don't remember the name. US motorbike. Its import norms were liberalized as a quid pro quo. Informally, I came to know that the Ministry of Commerce, if you allow our mangoes, we allow your hardly change, I think, Harshey change or hardly change motorcycle. So we'll accept. I think that was linked. So a lot of dynamics are happening at the policy level and decision making, and which is very, very complex. In terms of some more revised, reformed approaches, so farm-based infrastructure in terms of farm road network, in terms of storage processing, automatic weather stations. A word on these automatic weather stations. We are spending so much of money on Pradhan Mantri, I think, Fasal Bima Yojana, with little success. We are not able to reach the large number of farmers because its settlement is very difficult. The settlement is bureaucratic. The settlement is not transparent. I think investing in automatic weather stations and making the whole settlement automatic, bureaucratic free can really push the insurance in the production, especially managing the production risk is going to be reformed completely, transformed completely. We need to invest in that. Though I think Karnataka has done a lot of good work in this, but there's much long way to go. Another aspect is agriculture statistics. I think all our policies and all our decisions are dependent on statistics we generate. Again, a division of Agriculture Ministry and a small segment of State Agriculture Department generates the data. That is many times, most of the times it is late and not very crystalline and not useful. Again, it is a estimate, revised estimate 1, revised estimate 2, revised estimate 3. I think a major reform is required in terms of generating the data and making the data available. And that open data can open up so many avenues for entrepreneurship activity. The open data available, reliable data availability on the public platform, public data, I think can trigger a lot of entrepreneurial activity in the sector, which I think we have to look from that angle. I think these are all this thing. So another important aspect for, of course, through agriculture, the rural development, the delivery of public services is another important area which need to improve, which we have to focus. Coming to a completely new approach. So I think having worked for 35 years in various sectors, rural development, the milk sector, agriculture, and then NIRD, I think agriculture being so diverse and the stakeholders are so diverse and their resource base is so diverse and the youth bulge with the changing aspirations, any policy which is coming from top down is not going to work. So that's why I call participatory and inclusive development from bottom up. That's what we attempted in Kerala as a people's planning campaign. Panchayat as a unit, and Panchayat, including various line departments, sectoral departments, come together and plan depending on the potential of that Panchayat, depending on the requirement of the people, depending on the resources available. They plan, they prioritize, and then implement. And there was an effort to converge most of the schemes into that plan. That plan is called the Gram Panchayat Development Plan, GPDP. And that GPDP would have a separate chapter prepared by the Panchayat with the help of the Agriculture Department, with the help of agriculture experts, a separate chapter on agriculture, on livestock, livelihood, families to be assisted, families to be developed, and various other activities to be taken up. And I think this participative and this plan is made with the involvement of all the people, based at ward level and at the panchayat level, and then discuss multiple times and then create a plan. That may not be really scientific, doesn't matter, but at least participation is there, at least felt necessities are being captured, at least the local resource need is being assessed. And that's how things have moved. And I think this participatory approach is going to be the way forward for integrating the agriculture or enmeshing agriculture into really or leveraging agriculture sector for overall rural development. And I think that blending can happen there. And many times we keep telling that the resource crunch. If you say that the pesticide distribution is one scheme, and if it comes to the panchayat level, maybe one farmer in that panchayat will be getting that benefit. So resource constraint. There may be 20 farmers who will be looking for that benefit, but only one farmer can be given. But suppose if we integrate that plan into this GPDP, there could be bouquet of resource avenues which will open up. And then if that is the priority, then that resources can be dovetailed for attending to that activity. If agriculture department officials at grassroots level, at the panchayat level, at the block level, or at the mandal level, if they actively participate in the GPDP development, GPDP preparation, which happens starting from August, this is the right time. August, September, October, from October onwards, it will start. Actively prepare, their budget will multiply by 4 times. Budget means it will not come to their hands, into the agriculture department hands. It will be available at panchayat to be invested in agriculture activities, agriculture related activities. That is the level, can be multiplied by 4 times from various sources, various activities. So this participatory approach starts from planning. At GPDP preparation, the blending of agriculture will happen with rural development. I am not viewing agriculture rural development as a separate. So even blending, I don't think it is the right appropriate word. Rural development means agriculture for 65% of the people, and which of course which has to come down over a period of time. Then empowering the local people is happening in number of initiatives. Of course, empowering FPO is an empowerment mechanism, bringing them together and helping them. SHGs is an empowering mechanism, and NRLM is an empowering mechanism. Women empowerment in the form of SHGs is an empowering mechanism. Social audit is an empowering mechanism. I think my advice would be to try out a social audit of implementation of a particular scheme. You can select any scheme, let us say RKVY. RKVY, if you conduct the social audit, you can take the help of NIRD or SIRD or the social unit of a particular state and then conduct the social audit. It will throw up revealing and very interesting facts and figures, and is going to improve the scheme implementation a lot. That's what happened in the MGNREGA. And of course, now it has taken too much of a different approach, different turn. I'm not getting into that. So empowering the poor, organizing the poor is another aspect. Again, it is a social engineering aspect. As I mentioned, FPO formation is a social engineering aspect. So similarly, empowering, organizing the poor is a social engineering aspect on which we need to spend. This development doesn't mean merely passing on that, let us say, 2,000 rupees to that beneficiary. And no, can we bring all such people together and create an entrepreneurial activity there? And I think our agriculture machinery has to be reoriented towards that, to look at, identify potential possibilities of a project in a particular area, maybe based on a commodity or group of commodities, or maybe some activity, group of activities. Can you create a business which can help, let us say, 10, 15, 20 youth or 100 farmers and so on and so forth? And I think our agri bureaucracy has to be reoriented in terms of using project management principles. And I'll tell you confidently that we are zero in our project management principles. Not only rural development, agriculture machinery, we are zero. We attempted with the help of Project Management Institute to infuse some project management principles into the field level workers. And I think enmeshing this project management principles into every of our activity is going to bring a lot of positive change. Strengthening rural decentralization, that's what I'm coming to the end. The local government, the panchayat, we have accepted through 73rd, 74th amendment, the panchayat as a planning unit. At panchayat level, the felt necessities can be aggregated and can go up to district level and then become a national plan. It has started. It is not impossible. It has already started. Kerala has done wonderfully well, and the whole country is doing for the last 3-4 years. Only if our agriculture machinery can take active role, proactive role at panchayat level to get themselves enlisted for the activity of the GPDP, preparation of the activity. And I think we can solve large number of problems. And of course, decentralization, there are a lot of issues in terms of strengthening at panchayat level. There is a deficit of hands, capacity, capability, but all problems can be solved. This is what I'm telling. GPDP is scientifically made with available whatever the competence, made professional Gram Panchayat plan by converging all the stakeholders, agriculture, animal husbandry, horticulture, fisheries, education, health, all programs, all resources to ensure sustainable development. Doesn't mean that a agriculture department scheme funds will be transferred to, let us say, panchayat. It has happened in Kerala, but not in other states. It can remain there, but at panchayat level, they know where that investment is going. And the investment is going as part of a larger, bigger plan, which has been made by the people, by consultation and by participation. This is a slide which explains how the whole GPDP is done. On left side to you, various stakeholders involved, and then partnership, participation, and then the process, visioning. Let us say at panchayat level, or let us say at agriculture officer level, whether he or she has a vision for that mandal, what exactly should be the agriculture status, let us say, in the next 10 years? Is it not necessary that we should have a vision? Similarly, for the panchayat, is it not necessary that panchayat should have a vision? Like we have vision, mission statement. Manage has vision, mission statement. Similarly, panchayat should have vision, mission statement. Similarly, of that, the department should have at mandal level vision, mission statement, depending on the local potential, local needs and the requirements. So visioning, planning, prioritizing, implementation, monitoring and feedback. That's how we achieve Gram Swaraj. That's what our Pita, Jati Pita, our Gandhi has envisioned. That's how we reach the sustainable development goals, for which capacity building is very, very important, which Manage is doing, and the motivation, mentoring, hand-holding, technology infusion, and so on and so forth. And of course, the leadership, political commitment are essential requirements. And another major human resource we are forgetting, we don't give due credence. That's what the Panchayat Raj human resource setup, the elected representatives, they're different from the bureaucratic setup. There are 31 lakh elected members, 31 lakh elected members who are available, elected members. That is the army. Only if you touch this 31 lakh, forget about 31 lakh, we have about 2.5 lakh panchayats. Suppose if we created two leaders, passionate leaders, at each panchayat as part of this panchayat setup, maybe ward member, maybe another, let us say, maybe local volunteer and so on and so forth. I think with 212 lakh leaders or maybe 5 lakh leaders, we can transform. We can change in the next 5 to 10 years the whole outlook of the country, whole economic strength of the country, whole the developmental parameters can be handled. Suppose nutritional deficiency, it is better handled at the Gram Panchayat level by sitting at, let us say, Niti Aayog or Ministry of Social Justice. If we talk about Poshan Abhiyan and all, is not going to work out. So I think laying faith on these elected representatives, Panchayat Raj system, starting with Panchayat as a unit, preparation of the plan, integrating various sectors which are necessary, required for that area, which will really bring in the felt necessity, and moving up and implementation. And supporting the Panchayat, I think, is going to be the way forward for improving the outcomes of whatever the investment that is going in the agriculture sector, improving the effort of capacity building, whatever that is going in the agriculture sector. And I think working together, working as one single unit is the way forward. And this is only the way forward, sustainable way forward, which can achieve results in quick, medium term. Short term, nothing happens, medium term. Let all other things keep going, keep happening. But if our agriculture extension machinery can focus on this, can spare and willingly participate in this activity, I think revolution is going to happen. The last, I think, I had an occasion to meet Anna Hazare. I was exploring why he succeeded, and his panchayat, Ralegaon Siddhi, I visited, and Ralegaon Siddhi agriculturally developed, livestock wise developed, and educationally developed, and all that. Not so much of inflow of resources with their people and the social engineering that has happened. And I think he's a social engineer. And he said there are 4 qualities if you are looking at a leader, that is Shuddha Vichar, Shuddha Achar, Tyag, Apman Pine Ka Sakti. A lot of setbacks. You should have capacity to bear those setbacks. Seva Mein Anand, Sthai Akhandata, sustainable greatness. If these elements are there in every extension worker, I think we are going to transform our country to a real developed country. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing. Jaya?
Sir, thank you so much, sir. It was a very transcending session, I should say. The thinking is starting from the present stage, and then what we need to do, what is the future that we look for, and what we need to do in order to achieve the future. So that's how you led us through the session, sir. Now I request all our members to kindly participate in this question answer session, please.
Sir, it was a very motivating and very informative. Basically, it opened up in different direction, because normally farmer he produce for himself. Afterwards, we start looking for market. But he told whether we have to keep the customers in mind. That this is very important at every farmer level. And if the farmer has to change, the extension worker has to change. So at that level, capacity building is very important. Maybe all our energy we are investing on, instead of production-led extension, we are shifting towards market-led extension. We are just trying to tell the extension worker that look at the local market and how to link local market to the farmers. So there are many other issues are also there, because agriculture department, it focus on production. Then the marketing department, it focus on actually the marketing of all the produce, but the coordination between agriculture department and extension worker and marketing department and the extension worker. So this is also another important issue. Unless we work together, probably the greater benefit we cannot pass on to the farmer. And whether ultimately people are important or schemes are important. So that is a very, very important question for all of us, because every month end we have to give the target list, and we always chase the numbers, but let us not forget that there is a person behind the paper. So paper is important, but the person behind the paper is most important. We should not forget about that. That is another important message you have given, sir. So one more thing is, sir, normally in departmental programs, large number of social benefits are also there, sir. We don't see the social benefit. Only the tangible factors are taken into consideration. For example, how many people got some self-employment opportunity? The number may be small, but the people who got self-employment opportunity, their confidence increased, their social recognition increased, and they create opportunity for other 10, 20 people. So many social benefits are also there. Even though it is time taking, these things are not taken into consideration when we assess a particular scheme. We don't monetize the social benefits. So that is one, if you monetize, we see the greater benefits of any program.
Yes, you are absolutely right, Dr. Chandrasekhara. Let us say, I think this is now the opportunity which has been created, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that is called GPDP at Panchayat level. After production, consulting the marketing department, and I think effectively marketing department, what does it do to manage the mandis and all those things? Effectively, farmer service point of view, not much is happening. Suppose all these actors can be converged, brought onto the platform which is called the GPDP while making the Gram Panchayat level plan. Other times say that, hey, in this mandal, this much area is likely to be, let us say, under tomato. So in this panchayat, if you go beyond a particular level, then you are going to, let us say, lose out on the price. So why not limit, restrict? And then panchayat can interface with the farmers and then convince them. Many times why we fail with the farmers is we cannot convince. Don't grow let us say paddy, or don't grow, let us say, tomato. This year is going to be glut. He is not going to hear you. So if panchayat, the local institution, is involved, that is an opportunity. I'm not guaranteeing that is going to work 100%, but it is worth trying. So bring every actor onto that platform. And this is August, and I request Dr. Chandrasekhara to sit with Dizzy, NIRD. You should actively participate in this GPDP things to integrate agriculture into the whole effort, and to multiply the resources that can flow to agriculture sector from various other sources. Otherwise, which will go in constructing some drain or constructing some small road, connecting some small. They are important, no doubt they are important, but the prioritization can happen there. So that is one area. And second, I fully agree with you, the social capital which is being built up. In fact, I was building a new house to Manchirevula, and since I am interested in greenery and all, I went to this area. What is that? Saifabad area, where large number of seed stores and drip irrigation and all those stores are there. Large number of stores are there in that area. I went to purchase the drain cells to put into the planter box. in fact, it was learning for me. I never knew brain cells exist. And then I went and then I was walking and then I asked one shop owner, how did you start this shop? Then he said, sir, I attended ACBC course in manage. So this I have chosen as an activity, and then I'm running this center. So I'm sure there's a great investment, and then that capital capacity, social capital has been built, and I think more and more is required to be done. But one area where we are missing is, again, run after the numbers is a problem, of course, which I'll accept. But our implementers, whether they have that capacity to conceptualize the project. Let us say in a particular area there is a potential for lemongrass, let us say, as part of diversification, as part of enhancing the income of the farmer. Whether they have the capacity to see the total supply chain, and then identify the machinery, and there are agencies. You need not become an engineer, but there are agencies who have to be identified, and then connect with them, and then collect the data, and then make the project. Without making the project, generally what we'll do is grow lemongrass without even thinking the processing unit. I remember where I was in Kannur, I visited some tribal colony. Then I saw some lemongrass clumps. I said, how did it come here? I said, 10 years back, somebody came and said, you grow lemongrass. We put. Then what happened? Nothing happened. So the project management skills, project making skills, I'm sure manager must be training, but more and more is required. Every person implementing a scheme has to become a project manager. And I think you can take the help of Project Management Institute. I can connect it to you, connect them to you. They're very, very interested to collaborate with the institutions and then bring in this project management concept. Okay, any other question?
Conceiving a project at grassroots level, sir, one is our public extension functionary. So he has a dozen limitations. Number one, he says this information is not available. Number two, there is no scheme of that type, which is very innovative and location specific. And his domain expertise is also another important thing. And taking to a logical conclusion till the income comes to the hand of the farmer. I don't know, these are all some of the areas for manage to look into, sir, as a capacity building instruments. But in my view, sir, actually, if we bring large number of agripreneurs to rural areas, giving all sorts of incentives, and if we make them to like agriculture and live in villages and create a conducive atmosphere for making them to money and help the farmers to make money, that is long lasting, because, sir, he is responsible for his loss or his profit. He will not blame any government for loss or profit. So he has to make profit. So his project will be more practical and more useful to the farmers also.
Yeah. You see, the gap, whatever is available in whichever area, if that can be converted into a business opportunity, then suppose you see a large number. Now you see the transport app. What is that?
Kisan Rath.
No,
Kisan
no,
Rath,
no.
sir.
No, that is okay. But
Ola
here in
do
our
that.
public life, Ola.
Sir.
There's a gap. Gap has been filled by an entrepreneur and who made billions of dollars. So there are gaps in each sector. If we can create that ecosystem, if we can help, for which is a missing point is that data, open data, creating open data platforms. In fact, Ministry of IT, government of India is talking about open data platforms. Allow the data to flow into the open data platform. Suppose if I want to start, let us say, I want to start a sweet sorghum plant to convert into ethanol, and which can be used, let us say, for dosing with the petrol, diesel, which the government is allowing 20%. Now I have to spend from pillar to post to find out which is the area suitable. I am an agriculture man, so I can know and then go to that area. But it is an IT fellow who is interested. He doesn't know. The data is not available. Where sorghum can be grown, where the seed can be sourced. So I think government pushing for open data platforms is one thing which can trigger a lot of entrepreneurial activity. And second, enabling our agriculture extension workers with the project management, thinking holistically, the ability to think holistically, ability to, let us say, do the value chain analysis. Suppose castor you take, Mahbub Nagar is famous for castor and all. See the castor value chain. We know that the whole castor produced goes to Gujarat and gets crushed and then come back in various types of products. Why not assess and create such facility here itself? So that ability, infusion of that ability is the requirement of the day. There are large number of constraints, but I believe strongly that the constraints can be overcome if he or she has that passion, if he or she looks at the farmer as a person looking for a good life and for which you are being paid to enable to create that good life. If that is the belief, if we can instill in this agriculture extension worker, I think wonders will happen. If we can create that passion. See, so many successful stories have been created not by much by the government intervention because of the scheme they have leveraged it, but because of their passion, because of their interest in working in that area. There are a large number of examples in, let us say, in Kerala. There's a panchayat called Karnagapalli where Karnagapalli they get a lot of awards. Agriculture is a main focus area. And I analyzed who is that trigger point. It is a panchayat president, vice president, who. Ultimately, I realized that an agriculture officer has brought everybody together, and that panchayat used to buy, I think, some lakhs of worth vegetables and other things, food products from outside. And after this thing has come, their imports into that panchayat, I'm talking about panchayat, has come down only limiting to potato, onion, which they cannot grow. Otherwise, all leafy vegetables, all other vegetables they are grown. Leafy vegetable, that amaranthus, they call chira in Malayalam, under the coconut, that basin, coconut tree basin, they have grown. With their own land was there, people were there, but this person is the trigger. This agriculture officer is the trigger. So we have to, I think our role as a training institute is to trigger that passion, trigger that imagination. These trainees won't be coming to us every time. I think it's again a lifetime opportunity. I assessed in NIRD, maybe once in 15 years that person will come back to NIRD. Once she is available here, he is available here, I think that is the opportunity we have to use to completely change his thinking, attitude, approach towards the people, towards the poor people, towards their targeted stakeholder, what is to be done. And if we can make them to look back as mentor and keep troubling you even after goes back, sir, I'm finding it difficult in this area, can you help me? If they come back to us, I think that is the successful capacity building and training. I think focus on that passion. See, that igniting that Kalam said, or former president said, igniting that light. Ignition is important. subject matter and all, they're available, and the knowledge is available nowadays with the click of a button with the Google and all is available over your smartphone or laptop or whatever it may be. It's available. You can reach out and connect. Ability to connect, and I think we have to play a very, very important role.
Yes, sir. Any more questions from the participants, please? You have created a very touching picture of the present India, post-COVID India. And what are the various pressing issues in rural areas? And what are the concerns for our sector, rural development and agriculture? And you said, sir, rural development is agricultural development. So we cannot separate both of them, and that fusion is continuous. And the most important point that you touched upon is how we can make that additional income for the farmers. And farmers look for this kind of interventions from agricultural extension or from the rural development professionals. And what kind of advisory, developmental advisories and mentoring services are required for the farmers and the rural folk. And how agriculture can be made entrepreneurial and a dignified activity for the rural people. And sir, about the social engineering skills and what are the different kinds of paradigm shifts that are taking place and that are required to be taking place. And where are the sources of advice to the farmers? So, and how right policy framework for agriculture can be suggested, sir, that you gave very valid and very useful points for the policymakers. And how one needs to be sensitive and sensible and forecast the problems that you have explained very beautifully, sir. And this farm-based infrastructure, how it helps the farmers to really think about moving out of the villages for the markets, and then also about storage, processing, and automated weather stations, and how we can improve the governance, and how participatory agricultural development can be taken up by social engineering and bottom-up and inclusive development, and how project management principles need to be told to the extension functionaries, and how we can strengthen the all the extension functionaries in the country by giving these project management skills, so that every activity that comes to their hand is treated as a project, so that they know that definite outputs and outcomes should be there at the end of the project period. And sir, finally, you talked very enthusiastically about this last point, sir, that is when problems are there, we have to live with the problems, and then we have to create, as capacity building institutions, we have to create passion for overcoming constraints among all the agricultural extension functionaries, and then how we can really look at how we can create that passion for these field level functionaries especially, and how we can ignite the lights in them that is required. So it's a very beautiful, wonderful session, sir, and so many inputs. I think that's the reason many of our participants are presently thinking about many questions that you have raised, sir, in fact. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jaya. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar.
Again, on behalf of Manage Family, I would like to thank you, sir, very much for from bottom of my heart. Sir, Gandhiji said, when you are in doubt, you remember the face of the farmer. When I was listening to you, again and again, you were reminding the same statement. So he should be the centrality of our thinking. I think rest of the things will be all right. That is what the message you have given and reminded the statement of Gandhiji, sir. Sir, thank you very much, and thank you for your valuable time. We are grateful to you, sir. We will be in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandrasekhar. All the best. All the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of you for participating in the session.